this week on 10 at 10. And this week is how to be a great investigator by asking great questions. How to be a great investigator asking great questions. Now, last week, we talked about the DC protest investigation. And I covered what kind of questions you would want to ask, what information you would seek out if you were the investigator. And I used that as a teaching example, learning opportunity, that as you look at what does it take to be a good investigator, one of the key things was on asking questions. And I talked about not jumping to conclusions and things like that. This week, asking great questions is going to be the theme for each day, Monday through Friday. Of course, on Saturday, we'll cover relationships. But Monday through Friday, we talk about work. Saturdays and Sundays, fun stuff, family stuff, relationship stuff. All wrapped around communication. That's what I do here at Tomorrow's Police Officer. So what I'd like to do is I'm going to make sure that everything is going well here, and it appears that it is. So the cool thing about questions is that not only do these questions I'm going to be talking about this week help you at work, it also will help you have a better relationship at home. As we dive into the different types of questions that you can ask, why some work better than others, and where you want to focus your efforts on when you ask questions. So Socrates, you've probably heard of that guy, and you've probably heard of Plato, and you've probably heard of the Socratic questioning method. So Socrates, obviously, a long time ago, he's considered to be one of the greatest teachers ever. And Plato was one of his students, which we're really lucky for that, because Socrates, he never wrote anything down. There's no writings by him. He was a speaker. He wasn't an author. He wasn't a writer. Plato, on the other hand, Plato was a writer. He wrote all sorts of stuff down. And a lot of what he wrote about was Socrates. In fact, the majority of our knowledge about Socrates comes from Plato. Now, the basics of who is Socrates and why do we care about him is that he taught by asking questions. He drew out answers from his students. He never gave the answer outright. He had a conversation with his students and asked them questions which made them think deeper and consider things deeper. Now, the reason that his Socratic questioning method is so popular among instructors is it's an amazing way to teach. Now, here's the cool thing. You can use it not just to teach, though there's benefits in that clearly. You can use it when you're communicating with people. And I'm going to use the examples of the public, and I'm going to give you 4 examples today. And I'll do a follow-up post, and I'll put these questions in the description. The questions make people think about what they just said. And it might get them to shift their position. It might get them to refine their position. It might get them to go, wow, what I just said sounded a whole lot better when it was in my head than when it just came out of my mouth. So Socratic questioning, it challenges accuracy and is how complete someone's thinking is. And the idea is you move them to an ultimate goal. It might be theirs, it might be yours, but generally with Socratic questioning, you're moving them toward their goal. Now, what is their goal? Let's say you get called to a family 415, disturbing the peace. And you're talking to somebody and you're thinking, wow, this person's totally unreasonable. Now, if you just tell somebody, you know what, you're being unreasonable, that what you want to have, it's ridiculous. How well is that going to go over? Probably not real well. You're probably going to generate a CCF, a citizen complaint form. You're going to generate a complaint, perhaps, or at least at a bare minimum. Remember, I always talk about trust-based policing, simple metric. When you're done with this citizen, do they trust law enforcement more than when you first met them? Do they trust them the same at a bare minimum? Hopefully they trust them more based on your encounter. So under the metrics, the standard for trust-based policing, the goal is to move them toward their goal, whatever that resolution is. So today I'm going to give you 4 easy questions to ask, simple to understand, simple to remember, and even easier to implement. That's the standard here at Tomorrow's Police Officer. So the first one is, why do you say that? So they make a statement to you, and it almost doesn't matter what that statement is. Why do you say that? Is the question that you ask them, because then it makes them think about the reasoning. Now, here's the cool thing. When someone's in an overly emotional state, you can start to see them stepping up. They're getting more and more and more mad. And sometimes that happens to us. When the more we talk about something, the madder we get. So if you see that happening, when you say, why do you say that? First of all, you're showing a genuine interest in them. And people like it when people show a genuine interest in them. You wouldn't be asking, why did you say that? Unless you wanted to know some more information. It's right along the lines of that tell me more statement. Tell me more about that. Tell me more, and you might put in something in that gap where there's something else that you specifically want to know about. And the cool thing is that will just cause people to talk and talk and talk and talk. The more they talk, the more likely they are to trust you. It's kind of strange how that works. But because you're listening, because you're showing empathy, because you're showing interest, they begin to trust you more. Obviously, someone who has their best interests in mind would do something like that. If you didn't have their best interests in mind, then you wouldn't be listening to them to begin with. You certainly wouldn't be asking questions to have them expand on what they want to accomplish, or why they feel a certain way, or why they shared information with you. The next question is, help me understand you better. What exactly does that mean? Help me understand you better, or help me understand what you're saying better. What exactly does that mean? So someone says, makes some accusation against a relative that a brother stole something from them. Help me understand you better. What exactly does that mean? Because it makes them rephrase it, whatever it was. And again, especially if they say something that you're like, wow, that was kind of an odd statement. When you say, what exactly does that mean? It makes them think back over what they just said, and it slows them down. You have somebody who's ripping through a statement. You're like, whoa, hang on a second. I can't keep up. What you just said, I want to help me understand that better. What exactly does that mean? What exactly did you mean? Is another way to phrase the same question. If somebody is rattling off things that happen, something that you can say to them is, can you give me an example? Tell me about when that happened last. By saying that, what you're forcing them to do is to come up with, instead of a generality, you're asking them to come up with a specific time that something actually happened. Actions speak louder than words. If you're accusing somebody of always interrupting, can you give me an example of that? Then they have to think back to the last time that they were interrupted. Now, it might come to mind immediately, but all of these questions are designed to get the person's mind thinking they have to dive deeper, and that automatically lowers the emotions down. They become more calm. It's great for de-escalation. The fourth question is, Can you rephrase that? Because I want to understand you better. If you think back to the very beginning of 10 at 10, I covered magic words. And one of the magic words was because. Anytime you say you want something, and then you give the word because, and then you give the reason, people will almost automatically do what you ask them to do. Because is a very, very powerful word. It's a magic word. That's why I covered it in that series. When you ask someone to do something and say, because blah, 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 whatever that reason for the because is. And it could be something simple. Would you step out of the car, please? Because I'd like to talk to you over on the sidewalk. Most of the time, if somebody was going to object, you'll find that they don't because you gave them a reason. The word because is so powerful. So that's 10 minutes today, 10 at 10. If you can stick around for just a little bit longer, I'm going to talk more about these 4 questions. I'm going to talk about them a little bit deeper. If this is all the time that you got and you need to bounce out, no hard feelings. But if you can stick around, by all means do. If you are leaving and even if you're staying, do me a favor. Let me know your thoughts on these questions. Let me know about this Socratic questioning technique. Let me know if you've used this sort of thing before when you've been talking to people and how effective it's been. I'd love to hear it. If you're on our YouTube channel, please hit the subscribe button. And as soon as you do, there's a little bell that shows up on the right-hand side of that subscribe button, and click on that bell and you'll get little notifications. Nothing that's annoying, but every time that there's a new video, a new teaching that's on Tomorrow's Police Officers YouTube channel, you'll get notified. Until next time, stay safe. Okay, so what we're doing today is we're talking about Socrates and why we care about who he was. And it's all about the popularity of his Socratic questioning method. You know, as one of the best educators out there, Socrates used questions to get people to think deeper about something, whether it was a subject or something that they had said. So the 4 questions that I gave you, why did you say that? Help me understand you better. What exactly does that mean? Can you give me an example? And the 4th one, can you rephrase that because I want to understand you better? Each of those questions asked in a different way for different purposes all achieve the same thing. They get the person to take a step back and think about what they just said. And oftentimes they'll give more information. They'll give more information because you're asking a great question. They're giving more information specifically because you asked them for that information. You're showing an interest in them and an interest in what they're talking about, an interest in what they're concerned about. And because you did that, they automatically feel honored, respected by you. So as we talk about trust-based policing, one of the key ways to get people to trust you is for them to feel like you are paying attention to them, that you understand them, that you care about them, that at a bare minimum, you're giving them a chance to communicate with you. You know, it's interesting as cops, sometimes we don't realize how intimidated citizens can be by us. You know, I remember talking to several friends of mine, and they're like, yeah, every time I see a police officer, I get nervous, even though I haven't done anything wrong. And as cops, you've probably heard that a lot. And that always puzzled me. And I've had people that I've been talking to that told me, you know, you're kind of scary. And I'm thinking, okay, we're just having a conversation. And you have to remember all the gear that you have on, the uniform, the presence that you bring with that, the energetic feeling that you bring with you as a person in a position of authority. You literally have the power to take someone's life to take someone's freedom, to keep them from going where they want to go and doing what they want to do. You've been granted that power. A lot of trust has been placed in you. And when the public doesn't fully trust you, they're not sure of who you are as a person. They're not sure of your motives. They're not sure of what your actions will be. That lack of trust creates fear. And fear triggers the amygdala. Fear, the emotions center of the brain. Fear hijacks the amygdala. So how do you get them out of that? Well, helping them be in gratitude is the fastest way. You might not be able to do that. You might be able to. You might ask them, hey, I got a question for you. I know you got a lot of stuff going on today. Clearly you're upset. I get that. And I want to help you with it. Can I ask you just one real quick question before we dive into that stuff? Wait for an answer. They're gonna just pause. They're gonna respond. They're going to want to fill that uncomfortable silence. On Wednesday, day after tomorrow, I'm going to be talking about the power of the pause and how to really use that effectively. But ask them a question before we dive into, I see you're really upset. Before we dive into that, because I want to hear what you have to say. Can I ask you a really quick question? And just wait. Maybe raise your eyebrows up a little bit, like you're waiting for a response. And when they do say, sure, or yeah, or they might tell you, no, I don't want you asking. I just want to tell you what I got going on because they're so emotionally wrapped up. And that's when you'll repeat it and you'll say, I'm going to listen to you. There's one thing I'd love to know first because it's going to help me help you better, because it's going to help me help you better. And at some point, very quickly, they're going to say, sure, what's that? Or what do you want to know? Has anything today, I almost messed that question up. What's gone right for you today? What's been the best part of your day up to, before this problem happened, up to this point? What was the best part of your day? They might not be able to come up with anything. But here's the thing. They're going to start thinking it. They might reply, I've had a crappy day. Nothing's gone right. Let's drop back to the basics. What's the weather out? Today, it's a beautiful day. It's heading for about 75 degrees in San Diego. I can look out and about 50% of the sky is sunny. 50% is cloudy. We're going to have some rain later on this week. So just the weather. Now, if it's pouring down rain and it's cold out and it's just miserable, you might not want to use the weather. You're up in Michigan right now. You might not want to use the weather if it's snowing, unless you can take the positive out of that. They go, nothing's gone right. Well, I've had those days too. That's the empathy. Yeah, I've had those days too. But you know what? And here's one of my favorite I'm alive jokes, and it works great. I've had those days too. It seems like there is nothing good anywhere. But today, something interesting happened. I opened my eyes, I reached up, and I didn't feel any wood. And I went, yes, I'm not in a coffin. And if they're smart enough to where they're going to get the joke about, there's no wood up there, you don't need to give them the punchline of, I'm not in a coffin. But if somebody's really wrapped up emotionally, they're not going to get your humor. Maybe they just wouldn't get the joke you're feeling. It's okay to give them that punchline. It's okay. If they're the type of person where you're like, they're going to get this joke, I don't need to give them the punchline. Don't give them the punchline. Just, I woke up this morning, stretched up my arms. There wasn't any wood up above me. I knew it was going to be a good day. Because now what you're doing is this. You're introducing humor into a stressful situation. You're introducing gratitude. They cannot help but think, yeah, I'm alive too. And if nothing else in your life is going right, you woke up this morning. And when you're in gratitude, you cannot also be in fear and anger, either one, fear and or anger. You can't be in fear and anger at the same time and be in gratitude. Those are two totally different emotions. Remember, they live across the street from each other, yeah? So ask questions because it shows interest and empathy. It looks for deeper understanding of that person. Ask those Socratic questions. Have those, jot them down in your notebook or grab your phone and put them in your notepad app. Practice these questions. They should be able to roll off your tongue. You should be able to have at least one by the end of the day that you can use all the time. Tomorrow, maybe you'll have two, or by the end of the week, you'll have two. Depends on how quickly you memorize things. And again, it's not my script. It's not Carrie's script for you. But what it is you develop your own style of asking this question. And if you have two or three or all four of these, the benefit is this. Depending on where the conversation's going, you can ask them the most appropriate question. And when you do that, you're going to find that emotions come down, trust comes up. That's it for today at 10 at 10. Hope you have an amazing day. Until tomorrow, and tomorrow's Tuesday, I'm going to be talking about different types of questions. Open-ended, closed-ended, low risk, and high risk. So 4 different types of questions to kind of build on the 4 questions I gave you today. And we'll dive deeper each day this week into questions. So that's what's coming up tomorrow. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel, like and share us on Facebook. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Till next time, stay safe.